Good afternoon, Beaufort Middle School students. This is Ms. Brigman, and today we're going to continue with Unit 1, and this is Lesson 4, Conversions. Our essential question for today is, how do I convert fractions, decimals, and percents? In Lessons 1 through 3, we discussed fractions and decimals and the operations with each of these. And today we're going to focus on percents and converting from percents to fractions to decimals and vice versa. First, let's go over some vocabulary. Please find your guided notes and fill in the blanks accordingly. Your first word is percent. A percent is simply a ratio that compares a number to 100. The important thing to remember about percent is that these are numbers that are out of 100. And if you have a highlighter, please highlight part over whole. It's very important that you memorize that percents are simply parts over wholes, parts out of 100. Just the same as we learned before, fractions are parts over wholes and decimals are parts over wholes. And because all three of these types of numbers are ratios that compare parts to wholes, we can convert between the three. Let's try some examples. We're going to start with converting decimals to fractions and percents. All right, starting with number 1, we're going to first start by converting these decimals to fractions. And if you can read decimals appropriately, then you can write them as fractions very easily. This number would be read as 25 hundredths. So all you have to do is write 25 hundredths. A little trick that you can use to help is look to see how many digits you have behind the decimals place. And in this case we have 2. So in the denominator you're going to have a 1 always comes first, and you're going to have 2 zeros because there's 2 place values behind the decimal. So we have 25 over 100, and we know from our previous lessons that this fraction would not be appropriate and that we need to simplify. So you need to find the greatest common factor, which is the biggest number that will go into both of these evenly. And in this case, it will be 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 0.25 or 25 hundredths written as a fraction reduces down to 1/4. Let's convert the next one to a fraction. This is read 3 thousandths. Again, there's 3 digits behind the decimal place, so that tells me there's going to be 3 zeros in the denominator, and the 3 will just go on top. This is read 3 thousandths. This fraction cannot be simplified, so this is our final answer. Now let's convert these decimals to percents. When converting to a percent, you simply put your pencil on the decimal point, and you're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. From there, you're going to put your percent symbol. So the answer is 25%. I'll write it over here as well. A little trick to help you remember, you are moving this symbol, the decimal symbol, and you want to make it a percent, which is behind the number. So that will help you remember to move it to the right, move it back. Another small hint to help you remember, you are moving it 2 places and you have 2 little dots in your percent symbol, so that can help you remember that you are moving it 2 places to the right. Let's try this one down here. We'll put our pencil on the decimal point, and we are moving the symbol to the back because we know our percent symbol belongs on the back. We're going to go once, twice. Now in this case, our decimal point comes before the number, so you need to include the decimal point in your final answer. This is going to be 0.3%. Now let's try converting fractions to percents and decimals. First, I'm going to convert 3/4 to a percent. And the best way to convert fractions to percents is to first change it to a decimal. And the only way to change fractions to decimals is to divide. Remember, first come, first serve. So 3 will go inside the house. It will be our dividend, and 4 will be our divisor. We will add a decimal and a 0 and shoot that decimal straight up. 4 goes into 30 7 times. That gives you 28. We'll subtract here with 2 left over, and of course you have to add a 0 and drop it. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So now we have our decimal version, and we just learned in the previous slide how to change this decimal to a percent. We're going to put our pencil on the decimal and move it 2 places back to the right. So our answer is 0.75 or 75 hundredths as a decimal and 75%. Okay, let's try number 2. For number 2, and my toolbar is covering the problem, but number 2 is 23, I'll just write it right here, over 50. I'm going to show you another way to change fractions to percents. So your first way is to take your fraction, divide, and make it into a decimal, and then move your decimal point back to give you your percent. The second way is to take the fraction and create an equivalent fraction that has 100 in the denominator, because we learned from our definition that percents are parts over wholes and they are always out of 100. So if we can find this number on the top, we know that it's over 100 and it's equivalent to this fraction, so that will be our percent. So let's try it. Just ask yourself, 50 times what will get me to 100? And the answer is 2. And to keep this an equivalent fraction, whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. 23 times 2 is 46. So out of 100, this is 46%. We can convert this to a decimal by doing first come, first serve. So 23 will go inside the house, and 50 is our divisor. We'll add a decimal and a 0 and shoot this straight up. 50 goes into 230 4 times, and that will give you 200. We're going to drop a 0, and 50 goes into 300 6 times. So our decimal is 0.46. All right, for our last example, we are going to convert these percents to fractions and decimals. Let's start first by changing 25% to a fraction. We learned that percents are out of 100. So all you need to do is take this number, and it will become your numerator, and 100 will always be your denominator with percents, because all percents are out of 100. We don't want to leave our fraction like this because it can be reduced, and I'll divide the top and the bottom by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So your final answer is 1/4. Now, to convert percents to decimals, it's a very easy process. All you need to do is put your pencil where your percent symbol is, and this time you're going to move it backwards, or forwards to the left 2 times. So the answer is 0.25. The reason that you're doing this, that you're moving this back, is because you're dividing by 100. Remember, percents are out of 100. We're dividing by 100. So that's the reason you're moving your decimal point back, because you are dividing by 100. And my toolbar is covering up number 2, but I'll just rewrite it right here. It's 104%. So first, let's change this to a fraction. We know percents are out of 100, so 104 out of 100. And then we'll work on simplifying this. I can tell that both of these are even numbers, so I know 2 will go into both of them. 104 divided by 2 is 52, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. Looks like I'm going to need to reduce again, so let's try 2 again. 52 divided by 2 is 26, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So that looks like it's fully reduced, but this is an improper fraction, so we can do bottom into top. 25 goes into 26 one time. You're going to have 1 left over, and your denominator will stay the same. So this is your answer as a fraction. It's a mixed number, 1 and 1/25. Now the reason it's more than 1 whole is because you notice your percent is more than 100. It's actually 4% more than 100. So that's the reason you end up with a mixed number, and you end up with this fraction part of your mixed number. The last thing we need to do is convert this to a decimal. So we're going to place our pencil behind the 4, and we're going to move it 2 places to the left, and that's where our decimal point will be placed. So the answer is, I'll just write it right under here, 1.04. Again, notice your decimal, it's 1.1 and 4 hundredths. So again, you have more than 1 whole because your percent is over 100. Now please press pause on your video screen, and I want you to convert the following table. What you're going to do is you're going to use this fraction, 4/5. You need to divide it, 4 divided by 5, first come, first serve, to create a decimal. And then you want to change that decimal to the appropriate percent by moving your decimal place 2 places to the right. For the second row, you have 74%. You're going to convert this to a decimal by moving it 2 places to the left, and then you need to convert that decimal to a fraction. Finally, take the decimal of 42 hundredths, write that as a fraction, make sure to reduce, and also move your decimal 2 places to the right to make the percent. We'll check this tomorrow in class. Good luck. See you all tomorrow.